that you have a crime, and it has been committed by psychopaths. Okay, so that's your first thing. And you have to understand that if they ever for a moment think that anybody's going to uncover it and, make any efforts that are legitimate to remove them from power, they will do all kinds of things to prevent that from ever happening. And if people do not believe that they predicted, because they have all the money and power to buy all kinds of psychologists who will predict the public's behavior. So if people think that they did not predict that there would be a so-called 9/11 truth movement in reaction to this lack of official explanation that was sufficient and adequate for this crime, think again. I mean, you are dealing with real criminals. They are going to create a so-called 9/11 truth movement, and they're going to create it from the very beginning. And they're going to create it so that it follows the lines that they want it to follow. And they're going to put people in place who are going to, be very attractive, very convincing, very compelling in their explanations. And
right.
They're going to say, 99% of everything they're going to say is right, but then it's going to be like that ship going from England to Miami, just 1 degree off course, and you're going to end up, in New York.
We're also told by some of the big wigs in this 9/11 truth movement that we've got them on the run. We've got the bad guys on the run.
Oh, God.
And I absolutely refute that. We don't have anybody on the run because we're not really attacking the real problem. There's a lot of finger-pointing. Everybody thinks everybody else is COINTELPRO. Talk about COINTELPRO and what's going on in this 9/11 truth effort.
Well, this is something that I became aware of very early, and it actually started before 9/11. It was because I was writing about, some of these genetic issues and was looking already into the problems between, normal human beings and aberrant human beings. And, I came immediately under attack and was accused of being an incipient cult leader, that I was trying to start a cult. Now, come on. We're talking about a housewife in Florida with 5 kids, who has a discussion group that consists of maybe, 100 members, who all talk about, anything under the sun, and I've got this metaphysical experiment going on that was just an experiment, and it was, something I was sharing and saying, hey, let's look at this. This is an experiment. Let's play with this sort of thing, just because, we might get some kind of inspiration out of it. And boy, wham, bam, they came down on me like gangbusters. You would not believe the crap.
And the people
there
doing
are still
this
websites, and it has grown even because the more I write about psychopathy, the more I, expose the true nature of this genetic problem that we're facing in our world. The more there are entire websites devoted to defaming me, and once again, they do just as you. They accuse you of the very things they do themselves. I was accused of being psychologically deficient. I was accused of, fraud, of theft, of starting a cult, etc. All of the things that the people who were accusing me of these things wanted to do themselves and were themselves. So it's...
Who were you a threat to? Who are these people? Because I really want people to understand that this is related to well-known people in the alternative media, like Jeff Rense, right?
Yeah, he is associated with the same group of people, who went after me, and he himself actually published defamatory material about me.
Join the club.
I think that the big threat, and it has always been the big threat, is, the direction I'm taking, which is to understand the nature of evil. They absolutely do not want anybody to study and understand the nature of evil. This is absolutely forbidden, because if you come up with any real answers, such as we have, you must be destroyed. You must be defamed. And defamation, of course, is the main way of destroying someone. They don't want to make a martyr out of me. They're not going to come and arrest me and taser me, because if they arrested and tasered me, that would give validity to my, what I write.
Right.
Instead they want to defame me, they want to ridicule me, they want to marginalize me in all of the ways, that are culturally accepted, paramoralisms and conversive thinking and so on and so forth.
You and I are like lightning rods, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
Why?
I mean,
Why?
It's quite amazing to see how it works, but, I can guarantee you that, anybody who gets martyred ain't got a clue.
So, like Alex Jones having his little incident at the Canadian border on behalf of, what was it, orchestrated by the Bilderberg Group?
All that does is attract attention to the wrong issue. I mean, the real issue is genetic psychopathy. This is what they do not want people to know and understand.
And we don't see anybody talking about it, and it's the crux issue. If we just get rid of one group of people, for instance, a lot of people in the 9/11 Truth Movement think if we just get Bush and Cheney out of office and put in the Democrats, we're going to have a whole different country here. But that's not true.
That is their typical strategy. Because if they figure out that people are finally, getting a clue about something, they will sacrifice some of their own. And then they will present themselves as saviors, the new strong man who's going to step in and clean everything up, and he will be just as psychopathic as the others. Because unless and until you understand it has nothing to do with groups, it has nothing to do with nationalities, it has nothing to do with, specifically religions or with politics or, any of those kinds of divisions, that it has to do with a genetic malformation, a genetic substratum of reality that is completely deviant, completely different, and that it occurs in any and all. Some groups, of course, do have a greater percentage, for a number of reasons. Like, for example, if they've been isolated in ghettos, for hundreds of years and intermarried and so forth, they're going to produce more psychopaths.
Yeah, well, if they've been exposed to more evil, then they would be worse. Let's get back for a second, though, to the COINTELPRO, because we've been talking about this for a long time, how certain groups that promote themselves as at the forefront of 9/11 truth, they deliberately steer people away from truth. They get them to engage in meaningless activities like this UN prance they had last September 11th in New York City, where nobody really cared that they were even there. It was a Sunday, everything was closed, and they accomplished nothing. Rather than being at the emotional epicenter, which was ground zero, they were all like walking around in circles at the UN doing nothing. They get activists to waste their time, essentially. And we try to point this out to people. These are like COINTELPRO tactics, right?
Absolutely. And if somebody really wants to know how to survive these things, the first thing they need to do is they need to read ponerology. And they need to really get a good grip on the types of individuals, how conversive thinking is used, how paramoralisms are used to divert and deviate people. I've written numerous articles on it, and they need to understand, the exact parameters of it, and they need to become very shrewd and very psychologically educated.
Skilled. Well, we need to inform our consciences in order to inoculate ourselves against these types of people, right?
Yeah. Well, and let me give you an example. Counterintelligence, COINTELPRO. The counterintelligence program supposedly was created to vector social ideology. Any group back in the 70s that was promoting ideas of peace and brotherhood and, no wars and let's all get together and understand, ecology, let's be kind to the planet, anything that was positive and good had to be vectored. And what they did was, they would put their agents, and believe me, these agents are really well trained, and they're generally taken from universities and gotten at a very young age when they're impressionable and they can work on them, and then they become totally covert Manchurian-type agents, and they go into a group and they can become leaders, movers, and shakers. And I would really be suspicious of extremely young people who have gotten into this movement, at a very young age.
And there seems to be a lot of those. Yeah, there seems to be quite a lot of them.
Like Alex Jones and Christopher Bolen, they both came into it, at very young ages. So that right there is suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
But they get them and they put them in the groups and they begin to use paramoralistic and conversive thinking, and they infect the group from the inside. And at the same time, they may find somebody in the group who is already psychologically deviant, who leaves the group because they can't be in charge, or they aren't getting full credit for this or that, so they have some kind of deviation already, some kind of personality problems because of the way they were brought up. and they can use them to, tell lies about the group, or they can create, entire disruptions in any kind of group by simply their knowledge of psychology.